Welcome to this evening's EDC meeting. This technically will be our July meeting. We meet once a month as a group here. We'll get some things in order here. We'll have a call to order 6:05 p.m. Done. And now, if everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll take it. Chair Lawson,
Present.
Vice Chair Barron, present. Any member Bueller? Sorry.
Did she excuse the night? She shows up the.
Sorry, I won't come back. Committee member Hunt
Present.
and committee member Laura.
Mike, we see you.
Mike here, okay?
Yeah.
Earlier. The successful application process. We discussed a few of the details of the application. From there, we went into some specifics and code requirements for commercial parking, different code and ways we can help small businesses who are buying and or working through code requirements on buildings on commercial in the downtown corridor. We'll chat some more about that this evening as well. I know Lisa, who is not here this evening, attended a city council meeting, and we can probably speak more to that later this evening as well as in our next meeting when Lisa is available. We also discussed a few things about URA, how we can utilize different programs through that agency, as well as updates on the UGB, downtown properties, and an overall budget update as well. Any other questions, additions, or things we need to revisit before we continue?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Say nay. All right, we are approved for last meeting's meeting minutes. All right, we can move into some new business. I don't know, Bill, if we want to place the tenant improvement grant discussion on top for the review.
Chair Lawson, I would recommend it. I would go ahead and do it. Yeah, excellent. I think that's not a bad idea.
Want to go through our other work list?
Yeah, we won't make Josue, who is here this evening, to represent the application that we've received ahead of time. Josue, if you don't mind joining us here at the front table. We'll go ahead and ask a few questions. We received your application ahead of time. We're able to review it. If there are certain questions or details we'd like to get some clarification on, we'll go ahead and ask away. And then if you have any questions for us too at the end, we can help answer those. And then ultimately we'll make a recommendation to city staff, whether we think the application should be approved or modified.
Sounds good.
Well, first off, thank you for being here. We appreciate the time you're taking out. I think one of the things we like to get in the weeds on is just the sheer offerings that will be part of the business that you'll be operating. And one of those things I know is a hot topic is really the food, I guess, the diversification of the offerings within the city. There's been a heavy offering on Mexican fare, and we just want to kind of, like I said, get into the weeds more so on how you foresee your place of business, the menu, how you think it'll develop over time, if you have any plans right now on what the initial offering would be. I know the application is more of the bar and grill side of offerings, but feel free to get even more detailed on different menu items and plans you would have for that.
Okay, yes, so our idea for the Amelia's Sports Bar here in North Plains is more kind of an American style of, your typical sports bar in the areas. I know everyone or people who know us from Amelia's, they know that it's Mexican food, so we're not trying to do that kind of food since I live in the area, so I know the other restaurants that are here, and I don't want to have that kind of food here. The menu that I had submitted, it's kind of like a, I guess you call it a rough draft. These are kind of like the main ideas. We've had a lot more, but we've kind of narrowed it down to the kind of menu that we wanted to have. And I'm not sure if you all have seen it or have a copy of it, but just to give you a quick rundown of the item that we were thinking to start out with would be like a ribeye steak and fries, a bacon cheeseburger with fries, a shredded brisket hamburger, homemade chili bowl, chicken wings, chili cheese fries, Dogos with chips, jalapeno poppers, and BLT sandwich. Is kind of the menu that we think that we're going to start out with, and just kind of see how the community responds. And if we have any suggestions or we have anything that people would want to see, any type of specials, but it's going to be mainly bar kind of food for this location.
And the official name will be Amelia's Sports.
I believe it's going to be a Amelia's Sports Bar because we also want to kind of have it not just be like a full-on bar. We want to have a family be able families come in. So we're planning on having several televisions to play all kinds of sports and have a couple of table games, and kids can also have some food. The parents can if they want to have a drink at the same time. So it's kind of be something more like that. So not a full-on bar with it's not going to be just 21 and over. Yeah.
Do you foresee kind of the Amelia's name, especially in this area, is really strong? So it can be somewhat of a double-edged sword is what I'm thinking in that it's a strong name, but it also might be associated with a Mexican fare style.
Yes, we have thought about that quite a bit. We have thought about putting a different name onto the sports bar. But we kind of thought that our idea is so people know us from the restaurants, and the restaurants are not really known to be bars. So this will be an actual sports bar. But we do want people to know that we want them somehow to know that it's going to be us, so that they know that the kind of quality of food that they can expect. And so that's why we kind of wanted to keep the Amelia's name on there, so people know it's still us, but with a different concept of that it's going to be more of a sports bar.
Thank you. Sorry, I kind of off the first.
Totally, yeah.
I guess we're out of time.
Questions I got here more around the business operation. North Plains being a small city, how do you plan to, the worst thing I'd always say to the group is it'd be great to give you a grant, but the worst thing I'd hate to see is that it close a year from now. So how would being such a small community you plan to grow the business and sustain the business in a way that we don't have to see you leave a year from now?
Yes. So, one of the reasons I wanted to open up a place here, because we've been thinking about this kind of branching off into having a sports bar. We've looked at a lot of other different cities, and I live here in North Plains, and so I've lived here, when I was back in high school, junior high. So I lived here when it was a pretty small town, and so what it's kind of becoming now, I moved in 2019 to the Sunset Ridge area, so I've seen it grow, that whole area. The other houses down here on the corner when we go around the stop, and then the new development, that's the big one that's going back over there. All these new businesses that are, some of the new businesses that are coming into town right there with Dave, the Taco Bell, and I know that, this stop right here is pretty much everyone's kind of last stop before you head out to the beach, or you're coming back from the beach to fill up on gas. And I just think that with all of that kind of traffic that I think North Plains is gonna have, I think it's gonna be a good opportunity to have something new here that North Plains hasn't had that much of a variety of different kinds of foods, and so I think it'll be a good. That's my plan. That's my vision of how North Plains is growing.
That's good. With that in mind, how are you gonna market the business? How are we gonna know? Because like you said, there's a transit aspect of the business. You gotta get the folks going down 26 out to the beach.
Yes.
But then you also have the locals. And so what is your marketing plan to really make sure that when you open the doors, folks, whether they're in North Plains or driving to the beach, know that you're here?
Yes, so I plan to promote it through our website. We have an Amelia's Mexican Food for the restaurants, and we're gonna add a new page with a new link that will take people directly to the sports bar. There'll be a description, menu, so people can see. We have Facebook, Instagram, and also we're planning on having information at both restaurants and at the food cart that we have out in Portland and Pioneer Square,
Okay,
to let people know of this new venture.
that's awesome.
Are you gonna serve wine?
I believe we're gonna focus on having we're planning on having that's kind of, my mind's going blank, but to serve draft beer.
Yeah,
We're gonna have maybe a couple of drinks, and we do plan to have a couple of wines and ciders also on the menu.
okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a little bit of a little bit of everything, and then like I said, I guess depending on the kind of response that we get or feedback from the community, if people want to see more of certain things, then we're gonna try to accommodate so that people are happy with coming to the location.
Who do you think of as your primary competition?
I guess from the places that I know around here, I guess it would be Hitchin Post. I guess their bar, but I feel like they're more of a bar for like adults, and we're going to be a little, like I said, a bit more family friendly with the good. And I'm not saying that they don't have a good menu, but I'm saying like a good variety of different kinds of food, and with sports going on, I think we'll be a little bit different from I think anything that's really here in North Plains at the moment.
And so if you broaden from North Plains, do you have like a second circle of established restaurants you think you're competing with?
What was the person you said?
If you broaden past North Plains?
Oh,
So this is a community, if they want that kind of experience, they're driving somewhere now.
Mhm.
Do you have a sense of who that competition is for
the
you?
closest bars that are here or near here are probably going to be in downtown Hillsborough. Or if you want to drive out to Forest Grove, or if you want to head over more towards like the 185th area. So I don't think that there's anybody close, like really close enough to actually be competing with. I think if people who want to, go to a place like that where they can watch sports, have some food, have some drinks, they have to either drive pretty far or get an Uber to get around. So I think we'll be a little bit unique just for being here in North Plains.
Yeah, I think of Sports Time in Forest Grove or behind the Fred Meyers on
Yes.
the Cornell. So
Yeah, so I mean, they're all kind of a drive. I mean, they're all at least like a 10-15 minute drive. So I think they're pretty far away from us where there's not going to be too much competition, I guess.
okay.
Got a question. One of the biggest things that businesses are challenged with right now is finding employees. Being in a small market, what's your game plan to make sure that the restaurant's staffed and that you have adequate employees so we can keep the doors open too?
Yeah, so I have quite a few employees that are well experienced, they've been with us for a long time. And so I think that we have enough staff already that some of them can come over here with we plan on hiring maybe a few new people that are gonna be closer to here to North Plains. But with myself and my head chef being able to come and with some experienced staff, they'll be able to be here to be able to guide and teach everyone on the kind of the new idea that we want to do. And I don't really feel like we'll have an issue with hiring or keeping employees since we already have, we have like over, I think we're a little bit over 25 employees altogether with all of our, with our 2 restaurants and our 2 food carts right now.
I'm sure there's folks that want more hours, so. it's
Yes,
an opportunity.
yeah, everyone right now is trying to recuperate a little bit.
What do you see as your biggest risk? So is you're starting with a new concept in a new place, what are you most concerned about?
To be honest with you, I'm pretty confident right now. I feel like it's a really good opportunity and idea, just because I know, Oregon is known for having, you know, good drinks, good bars, good atmosphere, and I don't see that there's anything like I said before, anything like that here in North Plains. So I think it's going to be something that a lot of folks, at least in the area, and with all of the new houses coming in with what's already here, I think that the people are going to have a good option, and so my vision is that I don't think that that there's any kind of big risk. I think I try to think of all the things and everything that we're trying to do, and I think this is the best opportunity. That's why I wanted to be here in North Plains.
How long has Amelia's been in business for?
The original location in downtown Hillsborough is since 2008, I believe. But before that, and everyone's not familiar, so my mom is our head chef. It's all of her recipes and everything that we cook. Her name's Amelia. And she's had food carts and other restaurants since I was like 14, 15 years old. So we've been in this business quite a long time.
Do you have any plans of partnering with the community, whether it's fundraising or different community events?
Yes, if those opportunities present themselves, yes, I love to do that through the restaurants. I've always partnered with Hill High, especially Hill High, because that's where I went to high school.
Okay.
So I've done with the baseball team, with the wrestling team, with and other schools as well, Glencoe, Century. I've done a lot of like especially right now like the elementary carnivals that different schools have had, like Lad Acres. We've gone to just done a lot of stuff like that. So yeah, we love to do stuff like that with the community.
Excellent.
Mike, do you have any questions?
Yeah,
I didn't forget about you.
No, I don't. I'd probably end up just coughing all over myself anyway, but every answer, that's kind of what I was thinking of asking anyway.
We appreciate your answers.
Yes.
There are things that I think we're all, got good, concise, consistent answers. Yeah. I think there's anything else on my list that I wanted to touch on. No,
I had one question. Is there anything in the lease that restricts what you serve?
As in food?
Mm-hmm, that you are or aren't allowed to serve a food genre, sometimes in strips. There would be if Cup of Joe's going there, then you're not allowed to serve ice cream or something like that. And I just wondered if there were these restrictions.
I'm trying to think back of the lease that Dave, the developer of the location, gave me, and I don't remember that there's anything specified in there. It's kind of been more of a verbal agreement, pretty much not to do Mexican food, which I completely agree. But I don't think there's anything official in the lease, at least not that I remember.
Okay.
But I can double check it.
It's not, it was more of a curiosity if that was an approach that they were taking in there.
And to my knowledge, I don't think there's any other food going in there right now. I believe it's just yogurt and, I can remember the little bit, but I don't think there anything to have to do with food, so, yeah, I don't think anything.
Yeah, good.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and move motion to approve Postways improvement application and recommend that city staff recommended to city council for final approval.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Hi.
All those opposed, sitting in. All right, and then we just request that in 3 to 6 months or so, we can have you back here to one of our meetings and we can do a check-in. We recommended the same thing for Cabello, just to check in, get a pulse on the business, how things are going, and if there's certain areas that we as a group can help with, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, that sounds good, thank you.
What's your tentative start date or open date, your soft open?
So I don't have one yet, because we're waiting for this, and then to get once we get the permits, the builder says that it's gonna be maybe about 3 months, so I guess it all really depends when we finally get the permits to be able to have a better idea when we would open.
But 2023.
I hope so, yes.
Yeah, we always like to ask.
Yeah. Right.
And also, is there anything that this group can do for you? Any questions that you have or anything?
At the moment, I don't think so. I've had a meeting already as before and chatting with Bill and Andy. So I think everything is okay now. I think once we get more closer to like the permits, I think that's when more things will probably come up.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the business.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
And feel free if you don't want to stick around.
Go with
The rest of the meeting.
Yeah.
No worries.
I appreciate it.
All right, then we can jump back up to the top of new business. We were gonna have a more discussion and update on that business or downtown business spreadsheet. That is part of the agenda packet. Bill, would you like to discuss that further, or should we postpone maybe when Lisa's back as she was spearheading that one?
The downtown spreadsheet, I think I would recommend, she's really had her hands in that and blood, sweat and tears, so yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and push that to good recommendation.
Chairman, this is the first time I've looked at it. I apologize, I've seen it before, but just there are some easy things that think we are rare volunteers. You can just go through and update a lot of the tax law, property owner information that's out there as possible. That's, I noticed that would be pretty easy things already, just run some through, so we can get that cleaned up before your next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so we'll jump down then. Touch on that next meeting. Update on the city properties. Commercial and the local opportunity area.
I will start with the football opportunity area.
Okay.
Only if it's good news.
Only if it's good news.
No, never mind.
Okay, so we just discussed this today and was describing it today. The current status of that project is that 2022 was an incredibly rough year for construction cost escalation.
Oh, yeah.
20, 30, 40% increase on different things. In response to that, Rimble developer basically reassembled the team and then went out to bid the general contractors to come back with brand new bids on what the cost would be to develop the center with redesign that enhanced circulation, put circulation and parking in front of one of the buildings that didn't have it before. So basically made one of the buildings far more economically vibrant, for lack of a better word, profitable, if you want to say that. So basically enhanced the nature of the project with some changes. with the team changing. They got several bids, all of them came back at least as, if not a little bit more expensive than the cost estimate that they were trying to do better than. And so where we are right now is the big cost item that they can't squeeze themselves so much is a wide range of cost estimates that were given for scraping and removing a certain amount of soil on site that is estimated or guessed at needing to be removed because of past agricultural use on the property. The property used to be an orchard years ago, and the DDT was used on the property long enough that according to DEQ, even all these years later, even though anybody going out to the property and kids playing there, nobody's at risk. But according to DEQ standards, the fact that DDT at one point was used there, a certain amount of soil is classified as not clean fill and has to be removed and disposed of at cost at the nearest landfill. And so having said that, we are working with our new regional representative from Business Oregon on a revisit with the Brownfields program at the state to see if the next step in assistance is possible. And we haven't had that conversation with the Brownfields program yet, but that's coming soon. And then we'll move forward on that. Rimbold is in a few $100,000 on this project, and they continue to work on tenants. They continue to express that they're very serious about the project. But this soil thing and the ability of the state to help us is kind of out of their and our hands. So that's kind of the big question mark right now.
For the fact that it's mostly gonna go under cement and capped, isn't a solution, it has to be scraped?
The problem at the end of the day is that there's enough organic material that it has to be scraped down a certain amount. And part of the property, digging into the soil at all, they would have to remove some certain amount of it. And so what we're going to look for is some kind of grant, low or no interest loan from the Brownfield Fund. And hopefully that can kind of fill in the delta for us. They have brought in the guy, Travis Henry, who is working on the bank building project in downtown Hillsborough. And prior to that, was very successful in downtown Old Town Beaverton with all of the restaurant development there. They're actively working the property for tenants and restaurants, with a focus on restaurants actually. But we just have this soil thing.
How far down to the other sample is scraped?
That, I can't, maybe Andrew remembers the specifics on it. I can't remember how far down. The issue is that there's just so much kind of long-term organic material on site that kind of get it down to a level buildable soil. It's at least a foot coming off, at least. We got shovels. Yeah, well, it's where you go with it.
It's where you have to take it down it.
That's correct. We can't say, farmers looking for filter out to be dumped there for free. We can't do that with a certain amount of soil. That's the problem.
Got it. So is the largest cost the dump?
That's the largest cost that doesn't have a strong handle on it. Some think it's more than $3 million. Some are coming in at $2 million. 3 is the average.
Have we gone to the dump and asked for any price negotiations?
Well, I mean, no, it's
No.
really, you will, right, but we have a number of contractors who have put in different bids, and so it's a matter of figuring out the best bid, and then do they work with the Brownfields program, essentially, and then yes,
Just say, because if it's landfill's the highest cost, why not go with the vendor with the highest cost, and that's when they negotiate the price down?
I guess what I would say is it's not that level of specificity yet. Yeah.
Or we just dump it somewhere, I'm not paying. I need to like, do this.
So Mike had a question online. Yeah, it's a very good question. So if the cost of dumping the soil, if the cost of this issue is too much, what happens? I think what it means for us, if we can't get around this soil cost problem, I think we have to look at alternative ways of going at the property. We know there's a grocer that wants to be here. Maybe we look at it piecemeal rather than as one big development and we take on individual parts of it or something, but we have to do something.
And if that's the case, you anticipate Remble sticking on as the developer, or are they pretty much committing to the full pledge?
I think it's a conversation that we would have with them. The plan is for a development of the entire property, which means plan for scraping it all, getting it all ready and building it out over a shorter amount of time. I'm not sure what that would look like. I think that that would be a conversation because maybe they, can figure out a different phasing plan, start with where the soil isn't as much of it or something along those lines. So.
Thought that creeps in my head is I know we want to do more development. Is this gonna come up again as we look at other properties? Have we?
So. But the key issue with this property is that for quite a while in the 50s and 60s, it was an orchard. It's not like it was just grass seed or weed or something. It was an orchard and DDT was involved at some point, and that's a little bit unique. Having said that, I'm gonna let Andy talk about downtown properties because we did, he'll have a pretty good update on that. And the soil issue at GOA is ending up, the Glencoe property is a little bit unique in that regard.
Well, thanks, Bill. I didn't really show up tonight, I was going to speak about that, but that'll be brief. The one thing I will add about the GOA is we asked some of these questions to a Remble, like, how locked in are these prices for contractors? They're not. It's basically a big contingency right now, based on all of them giving pricing on past projects around Washington County, projects probably similar to what previously had been here. So, maybe it wouldn't be 3 years, maybe it wouldn't be 2, maybe it would be 1, but there will be some removal. The frustrating thing is we did the type 1 EA, environmental analysis, we did a type 2.
Yeah.
You go through the DEQ records, there's no, what is it? It's no significant, no further NFA, no further action necessary, even though they know there were underground storage tanks there, things like blood, they call less, in the reservoir stage. All that stuff is known, you kind of know what you're dealing with, but there's still just a big factor that they all are dealing with at 5 million. I wish we could find some backhaul. I wish someone was bringing dirt out here and we could get a backhaul and have them take it back, to it for the dump, but that's not typically how traffic works on here. So that's one thing. Like Bill said, we'll continue to work with this story and maybe we can find a way to get those costs down. The other one too is we do still have a lot of storytelling to do. We just met with someone today that was actually talking about a grocery store somewhere else. Oh yeah, our figures show, they need 7,000 to 10,000 rooftops to make one work. We are going to be close to that. We won't be. We won't be in 20 years. So this has all been ahead, according to that metric. This has been ahead of the market too. So it's part of telling the story. Remble's great to partner with, want to go in on partnering on this with, because they believe in North Plains, but we still have a lot of work to do to show the potential of this community and all the work you guys are doing and all the work that the planning commission and the council's been doing with the EOA and all that stuff. There's a big story to tell, but I think it would also give them confidence in maybe the kind of rents that they can get to, because right now they're currently lower than, but they'll be paying. So we've got some work to do and some convincing to do that there's a good market opportunity here. As far as downtown, the most we've done on downtown properties is we took the opportunity site areas from the downtown plan and did phase 1 analysis, EA on all of those. So this, which is basically, I mean, essentially a desktop analysis, but they can do the site visit, do a walk around the property. Some properties, you can't, you really can't get a lot of access and see everything that's there, and others you can take a full walk around, see if there's any old wells, things that are abandoned and stuff in that. With all of the properties, and I think we did maybe half a dozen, there's no really, I would say, big surprises that came out, nothing that came out unexpected. So I don't, is there a particular property or topic of conversation you guys are talking about tonight? Basically, we have that information and we prioritized one certain property because it was in a due diligence period of purchase, and that's the property across from City Hall. So nothing significant came up there, but again, there were some access issues. You can't, certain areas, if there's a pool of fluids, you maybe wouldn't necessarily be able to see it, but that's something that, the council knew going in, that it's not a perfect property.
Yeah.
I'm on the downtown development. Whatever it is, the committee that. Two of the businesses have approached me about putting their name out on the highway. Well, the signs are full. And I don't know anything about putting the signs up out on the highway. But if you're going to now have Capillo and Amelia's, and you got 2 downtown, so you got 4 that can go out on the highway. The question is, will ODOT do it? And so I'm going to bring that up to you.
I'm driving, I live over not far off of 185th. And it looks, I think ODOT added a new sign for restaurants in the last few months for 185th. It's a brand new, there's 4.
Yeah.
So we know it's been done recently.
Yeah, well, so
The one existing one can maybe use a little cleanup, because I think one of the food items is Chester's chicken. If I
But they-
remember right.
they sell that at the market.
Oh, okay, that's still there. Okay.
Uh-huh.
What's the one with the chef? Skipper. Okay.
Okay, Market Express is up there, which is a Chevron, and the Chester's Chicken is at the other market. So everything there is current. But the market, Kim's Market, she's always wanted to, but she's an individual and they wouldn't even talk to her. Because they would have to put up a whole new sign for one. But now you've got 3 plus her, so you got 4.
Now we can come at them with numbers. Talk to, I'm assuming that would be.
Yeah.
About county.
And it's not something that comes out of the city's pocket, but I think you can negotiate with ODOT a little bit. But each one of the businesses have to participate on a yearly basis. I don't know what that is. The other one that's not out there is the last watering hole. So you might have 5. My thoughts.
No, it's good. I think good thoughts.
Oh, one more thing. The agriculture on that property, they have had horses there for at least 45 years. And that's what you're talking about is,
Organics.
yeah, it's all organic stuff.
Well. I wish we could make that a case, because we have an organic composting facility where there's all gonna be much cheaper. So.
Yeah, so
Any further questions? Correct Street, Bungo, opportunity area.
Was this their study or ours? For
For the soil analysis.
They have their own consultants that, and it's hard to use out of the study we paid for.
Are they the ones that have the DEP in it, or was it us?
Well, there's no DBT, but part of the research identified that it had been used in the past, and that's the DEQ guideline, but it was our studies that identified that might be an issue.
What I'm trying to ask is, are they trying to use that as an excuse to get out of the project and back out? Like, oh, okay, this is using now.
No, they're not, they're very much into doing the project. It's just, given what rents are and what costs have become, that's the rub.
How do we need to get rid of it? This is gonna break down pretty quickly. All right, so I guess we need to do more research on that, if we actually need to do with this stuff, because it might see it breaks down pretty quick. I want to state.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next big thing, honestly, Council Page, is just getting the full attention of somebody, a particular person at the Brownfield program, the Brownfield Fund program. They have awarded us previous grant money to do the studies for the Urban Renewal Agency to get the original studies done. But they have other programs that do the next step, help pay for cleanup and remediation and removal of things. And they have a program, a new program as of the last, not this previous legislative session, but the one prior, they were authorized to start a program where they work directly with private developers on these things. So it may be that the program with the private developer is better than the one that they have for urban renewal agencies and cities. That remains to be seen, but we just need to have that undivided attention conversation with them. And that should happen soon.
Item C, 7C, we are also anticipating prepping for a potential future work session with the URA, with Lisa as well. I think it's probably best to push that as well to the next meeting while Lisa is here, since she can speak to her visit with City Council. So I think we'll go ahead and push that. That works with other committee members. Were there any other item D, any other discussions, Jacqueline? I know you had many good questions regarding the actual application process for the food service improvement grant. Any other questions or items we want to touch on with the actual application and the process?
No, as usual, Bill did a great job of helping me think about how to think about it.
Good way to put it.
He's a wise man. Well, thank you.
You have your moments.
I have my moments. I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Except for that clock.
Yeah, and my apologies, I mean, we kind of, when we learned that, honestly, when the Glencoe Opportunity Area project kind of started to stall out, but we did learn that in the intervening time, the fellow that Rimble brought on to help that had the track record in Beaverton and then the project in Hillsborough, it became apparent that tenant improvement grant programs, particularly for food service, were effective elsewhere. And so we kind of moved quickly on pulling together a program. With plan to launch it April 1st, but with missing 2 meetings, we never kind of had the opportunity to talk about how it could work or should work and kind of work with you on that. So we kind of threw you into the first application suddenly. And you all asked me, Council Sheldon was complimentary of the nature of the questions and the conversation you had with the first grant applicant at the city council meeting in his report. So you did a great job, particularly given that we didn't have the opportunity to kind of feel out how it might work. So just my compliments to you all for doing, for having a really good conversation with the first one and second grant applicant.
Is there, actually, the one question that came up for me was, there are long-term restaurant owners in town whose property could use a refresh, who have been committed to the area, have taken over properties that, you know, have been here for many years and never upgraded. So there is this internal sense of inequity like, well, that's not fair. And so might we find opportunities for our existing owners so that their businesses can continue to thrive?
That's a great question, and I think it falls under the category of the conversation that you plan to have with the urban renewal agency. This tenant improvement program and its focus on new restaurants, the intent, yeah, exactly, the intent was purely. We have businesses here, some of them struggle, some of them do okay, some of them might have a hard time reinvesting. But, you know, if you got kids, it's drive-through and or not really being able to go with a couple of the other ones because they're just bars basically, mostly. That's gross generalization, but it's not terribly far off. And then we pulled the community over December, January about kind of, you know, what are priorities for city action for community development over the next few years. And more shopping and dining was identified as a strong priority. So we kind of put two together, and that was also motivation for, okay, let's do what we can to bring brand new here. But I think that with the new downtown plan and the grant money for this isn't in the budget as new tenant improvement program grant budget. It's new development incentives budget. So because that title is a bit more broad, you have the ability to talk to the city council urban renewal agency and say, what of a program or programs that might help with existing businesses or properties? Because this current program, we're seeing activity and it looks to be facilitating new things. But there's nothing right now anyway yet for existing businesses, and is there interest in that or something along those lines?
And I could be misremembering, but I feel like I remember you referencing previous grant programs or different programs for facade improvements and how those can work to a certain extent, but also be taken advantage of at times.
I think in the email, what I said was that typically the history of downtown improvement loans and grants, for a long time, they focused on facade improvement, you know, cleaning up, refurbishing the front of the building.
That's the concept.
Well, that's one way to put it. I have used that expression on more than one occasion. And honestly, right before COVID, we even had a consultant on board who was going to do a bit more. It wasn't just facade improvement recommendations and process. It was how can the URA help businesses with their showcase, their windows, and how are they marketing their merchandise? And what's the experience when somebody walks in? But that kind of falls under front of the building improvement. And then when we looked into it specifically for restaurants, it was vent hoods and walk-in refrigerators and stoves and all that stuff. What's inside in the kitchen and other improvements related to that are expensive, cost inhibitive. Yes, and that's a good point. And some of the power of all of this, the way we're looking at this, honestly, from a policy perspective, is we're looking to buy for permanent kitchen equipment in place in town. We want him and anybody else that comes here to be successful, but if they aren't, the next business that comes along has exactly and probably cheaper than they had when they had put in the lease rate. The second business, if there is a second business anytime soon, what they pay in lease rate is probably going to be cheaper and they'll be more likely successful. So there's kind of some permanence in that we're trying to have.
Thank you. All right, last couple items. There was a community development report for the month of June. Don't know if committee members have had a chance to review those, if there's any questions on specifics of that. I don't believe there is. I am.
Mike had a question online, I, from my perspective, I have a quick answer. So Mike asked, do we know how Pilgrim's Nuts or La Loteria are doing? I've been in La Loteria a couple of times and I'll casually chat with them about Instagram. And seemingly they're doing okay. I mean, privately, would they share if they're not doing okay? I don't know that they would, but, you know, it does seem over the past several months, when I've gone in at different times randomly, it does seem to be picking up.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Pilgrim's Nuts, I don't know if anybody else has a report on them. I don't, I'm not a big student person.
I thought about it today.
Oh, nice.
And, I brought, Farley, the mascot for the hops inside there.
Oh, yeah.
I did a little photo shoot. So I was talking to the owner, Karen, and, she's doing quite a lot of stuff. Very, very busy. Matter of fact, one of her competitors has got a business. That's even more. I asked about taking the capital from there or, you know, to be able to use it. But now we use it kind of thing, so this is going to go away. But yeah, she's doing very well. I don't know, I had shrimp tacos over at La Loteria today, is that called? The Loteria, and I was over in the building during lunchtime. So, that's always a challenge. You learn business school that if the business doesn't do well, you have to see things in business. You have to treat it as if it's, you know, as if it's haunted, if they away. This is the third orders in there. So I assume, you know, they passed history. I don't know how well they're doing because I didn't ask, but I was the other person doing it today.
Councilor Page, anything else this evening that you want to touch on?
One of the things I really wanted to push running for city council was city involvement, getting people involved in, you know, the community. Second thing was businesses. I wanted businesses to come here because there's two things. One thing is good for the city to have different revenues. That's a big picture. Small picture is everybody here, or most people, families here have kids. And kids need jobs. They don't need to drive to Hillsborough to get the, you know, entry level, low skill job, or train how to work, or train how to be there on time, you know. Be sure you keep it brush, you know, smell at people. Any of those, one of those kind of training jobs here, so families don't have to go down to Hillsborough. And we're making progress with that, right? And I was really hoping that the Glencoe thing would open up. Now it doesn't provide services to me, but it provides services that families kind of need as far as training goes for their kids and, you know, that kind of thing. So that was one of my big things, and I'm glad we're doing it, right? We're actually flexing city's muscle and trying to make things happen. So that's the, you know, bigger picture of, you know, what kind of handling that.
Yeah, to that point, our first application, Cupayo, when we were discussing with them, they mentioned they already had multiple applications for, I think at that point it's just probably part-time, but.
Same thing as a Taco Bell, my neighbors are both doctors and their daughters are there, right? Just to, it gives you a chance to show up to work and be there on time and get yelled at by somebody, saying, you know, anything, right? Before you know, I mean, I'm a manager of a lot of people over at Intel. And some people are just their first time jobs in. You'd be amazed that the, you know, knowing how to work isn't quite there yet, right? So it's a tough conversation to get that,
Yeah.
you know?
Thank you. Anything else?
So one more thing, I was looked at by Andy, to mention that the July 5th is the Hillsborough night over at the Hops. North Plains, yeah. It says North Plains night, that's right. It's the house night, and the North Plains night of the Hops. So, the city bought some tickets and give away some tickets to the same area, and try to get people to show up. It's section 4. So, we have the time to like it. Have some hot dogs and chat with people in your community.
It's gonna be garlic themed?
No, it's gonna be James Range, there's a mean basketball game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
All right.
Last question, I want to go back up to the Glencoe opportunity area. Has anyone applied for the Brownsfield cleanup grant?
On this project?
Yeah.
No, we haven't kind of had, we haven't had that meeting to kind of like go over, would it, would it potentially qualify, what could it possibly help with, that's all.
Looking at it right here. Cover the cost. Looks at 2 million. The other thing I was gonna ask is, it looks like if the state is the applicant, it'll kind of get fast tracked a little bit. Is there any potential for the state to come in and help sponsor the application through? Or does it have to be state land?
Well, that's, getting into the weeds of it, that's a good question, because, we did have Business Oregon, it was either last week or the week before, they came out to kind of just learn about this and some other projects. And what became apparent is that anything owned for a lot of programs, maybe not brownfield, and we need to have that meeting specifically, because a lot of business incentives through Business Oregon, but for a public agency project, related project, the property or the project has to be owned by the city as a legal entity. They can't help projects for urban renewal agencies, and since the property is owned by the urban renewal agency, there are different rules.
Buy it for $1, sell it for $1.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it could have. So but as far as the brownfield program goes, we have to explore those weeds at that topic, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it was 500,000 to $1 million and then 2 million for one side. So it could hopefully be that.
There's great potential, it's just getting them, yeah, and actually, we were making great momentum. We'll get you in touch we'll set up a meeting, and then it seems like semiconductor is just kind of sucked the air out of the room over there, frankly. So anyway, we just really need to find them, which is still of interest. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Semiconductor stuff.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do an update on that?
On the which, I'm sorry?
Semiconductor.
What's the latest? So what we've learned, I guess what's fair to say is that, North Plains is scoring very highly in terms of businesses that are looking. A few weeks ago, the state issued a request for expressions of interest from semiconductor firms after the Oregon CHIPS Act was passed, because now there's a state mechanism to fund things. The governor's office got very strong interest. A number of different firms, a lot of firms actually expressed interest in potentially being in Oregon and qualifying for the program that the legislature, well, the governor signed. And they've reached out to us and let us know that North Plains is scoring very highly, suffice it to say, and they're kind of lining up the potential for tours of basically Hillsborough for sites. So we're kind of gearing up to work on that. Cool.
I'm not sure I quite, or maybe I've lost track of the order of operations. At the federal level, is Oregon selected, and if so, for how much? Like, is that done already, or are we still, is Oregon still competing federally?
Based on my understanding, the majority of the money that gets talked about at the federal level, the Federal CHIPS Act, and certainly at the state level with the SB4, with the legislation that was passed. The great lion's share of the money and credits and exemptions go directly to businesses, and all of the money that was authorized by the legislature and signed by the governor in SB4, all of that money also goes to businesses. There was no provision that 50 million or 100 million go to infrastructure, to public agencies. We right now actually are working on scheduling a meeting with the governor's office. They want to learn, get an update on our UGB process, because they're following it very closely, because businesses are interested. We hope to learn from them. How is this going to be pulled off? There's no, the legislation didn't say cities that are going to be located, businesses going to be located with the state's assistance. There's a pot of money for infrastructure to be funded with. That didn't happen. So it sounds like the state is going to have money that we give businesses to be budgeted, or the only thing that can be reasonably expected is that any state money that's given through SB4 to a business, there has to be some sort of budgeting for site infrastructure and improvements, because we don't have money. I can tell you right now, Hillsborough is not sitting on millions and millions and millions of dollars that are needed for improvements. The money's got to come from somewhere. It's kind of an odd, in my experience, a very odd situation from an infrastructure and utilities.
Any other topics, questions?
We don't know.
All right,
It's 7:12.
well, Bill, Andy, Councilor Fay, thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate your time, leadership, all the above. We're gonna go ahead and adjourn this meeting, 7:05 p.m.
Have a great July.
Great July, happy 4th of July.
No fireworks from the city this year?
Well,